The first rule of theater was simple: never break character. The second rule was less official, but far more important: always know where the cameras are. Adeline Walker stood beneath 3 crystal chandeliers, surrounded by polished marble, horrified relatives, and a crying blonde girl in a seafoam dress who had chosen the worst possible night to commit social homicide. Aria Walker, the long-lost real daughter of the Walker family, trembled beautifully in the center of the ballroom. Her tears glittered, her lashes fluttered, her voice cracked on the perfect syllable.
"Why would you do this to me, Adeline? Haven't you taken enough?"
The guests gasped. Sarah Walker pressed one hand to her mouth. Arthur Walker's face hardened with the weary disappointment of a father preparing to believe the easiest version of events. And Adeline? Adeline smiled. Not widely, not cruelly, just enough. The kind of smile directors loved because it said everything without wasting dialogue. Then she lifted her phone.
Before anyone says something unfortunate, I think we should review the footage.
The room went silent. Aria stopped crying. For one perfect second, her expression slipped. Adeline noticed. Of course she noticed. She had spent years studying faces. And the third rule of theater: the audience might miss the mistake, but the camera never did. Act 1. The wrong role. Before she became Adeline Walker, she had been Addie. Just Addie. A theater kid with too much eyeliner in high school, too many opinions about blocking, and a part-time job at a dinner theater where elderly couples tipped better if you fainted convincingly during the murder mystery dessert course. She worked there to pay her way through college, psychology specifically, which everyone said was a waste. "You should audition," her friends told her. "You belong on Broadway," her coworkers said. "You cried over spilled soup in character for 12 straight minutes and got a standing ovation," her manager said. "That is not normal." Addie always smiled and said the same thing.
I like understanding people more than being watched by them.
Which was only half true. She did like being watched. She simply preferred knowing why people were watching. The week before everything changed, her friends were obsessed with a drama adaptation of a novel called The Returning Rose. It had everything: a wealthy family, a switched-at-birth scandal, a fake heiress raised in luxury, a real heiress returning in soft colors and softer lies, and of course, the fake heiress's beautiful downfall. Her friends kept telling her to audition. "You already know the novel," one of them said. "You'd be perfect for Adeline Walker." Addie stared at them.
Adeline is the fake heiress who gets publicly destroyed, disowned, and emotionally mulched.
"Exactly," her friend said. "You'd make it iconic." Addie had laughed. Then she went to sleep and woke up as a 6-year-old girl in a silk nightgown, staring at a ceiling painted with clouds. For a while, she simply lay there. Because she had to be dreaming, right? Then she sat up, looked at her tiny hands, and used one to pinch her thigh. It hurt. A lot. She had not held back, which she had come to regret far too late. With a sigh, she surveyed the bedroom. She saw the gold-framed portrait of Sarah and Arthur Walker hanging over the fireplace and whispered,
"Oh no."
A maid entered carrying warm milk and asked, "Miss Adeline, are you awake?" Addie stared at her, then at the milk, then at the maid again.
"Quick question,"
she said carefully.
"Is my full name Adeline Walker?"
The maid smiled. "Of course, miss." Addie inhaled slowly, professionally, the way one breathed before delivering a tragic monologue in a room full of people chewing prime rib. Then she flopped backward onto the pillow.
"I was not emotionally prepared to be cast as disposable backstory."
Adeline remembered the plot. Not perfectly, but well enough to know she was standing on a trap door. In the original story, Adeline Walker had been raised as the beloved only daughter of Sarah and Arthur Walker. Elegant, spoiled, lonely, and desperate to keep her place. Then the real daughter returned, Aria Walker, blonde, delicate, and soft-spoken, a wounded little saint in pastel dresses. The family drowned in guilt, the servants whispered, society watched. And Adeline, terrified of losing everything, became exactly what the story needed her to be: jealous, cruel, and reckless. Easy to frame. Aria never had to push hard, just a misplaced bracelet here, a torn gown there, a tremble whenever Adeline entered the room, By the end, everyone believed Adeline had bullied the poor real daughter. Adeline was thrown away. Aria was embraced. The audience applauded. Addie, now Adeline, remembered sitting in her dorm room once, tempted to destroy a book for the first time in her life, and saying,
Girl, why are you confronting her in hallways with no witnesses? Amateur hour.
Now she was that girl. Worse, she was 6. Too young for college, too young for therapy practice, too young to legally move out, but not too young to plan. Adeline sat at her tiny writing desk with a crayon because apparently no one trusted a 6-year-old with ink, and wrote 3 words across the top of a page. Revise the script. Then she underlined it twice. The first thing she needed was money. The second thing she needed was public goodwill. The third thing she needed was a believable reason to record everything. Fortunately, the universe had made one glorious mistake. It had put a theater kid inside a rich child's body. Adeline started acting. At first, Sarah thought it was adorable. Arthur thought it was a phase. Their society friends thought it was charming. The entertainment industry thought it was profitable. Adeline thought, excellent armor. By 8, she had filmed her first commercial. By 9, she was in a family drama playing a terminally ill orphan with suspiciously shiny hair. By 10, she could cry on cue so convincingly that a director once forgot to call cut and started crying with her. By 11, she had a fan base. By 12, she had contracts. By 13, she had an acting coach, a movement coach, a voice coach, an agent, 3 awards, and cameras in half the Walker estate. Officially, the cameras were for practice. She recorded herself constantly. Facial expressions, posture, walking in heels, turning dramatically without knocking over vases, crying softly versus crying tragically. Looking surprised when she already knew the plot had been coming for 7 years. Her family found it strange, but harmless. She is dedicated, Sarah said proudly. She is disciplined, Arthur said. She is terrifying, one exhausted director muttered, after Adeline corrected his scene blocking at age 12. Adeline preferred the term prepared. She reviewed everything, her entrances, her exits, her smiles, her pauses. She studied herself with the cold focus of someone dissecting both performance and survival, because acting was never only acting. It was psychology with better lighting. She watched how people lied, how they softened their voices when asking for things they did not deserve, how guilt made powerful adults stupid, how a trembling lip could redirect blame faster than evidence if the audience wanted innocence badly enough. And most importantly, she learned the weakness of every manipulator. They needed reactions. So, Adeline trained herself not to give them any. Ezra Juniper first saw Adeline Walker at a charity rehearsal. He was 21, already infamous, and far too composed for someone his age. The Juniper family owned theaters, production houses, investment firms, and enough social influence to ruin reputations by politely declining invitations. In the original story, Ezra had been a dangerous side figure, not the male lead, not the villain. Something worse. The investor who knew where everyone's secrets were buried and charged the interest for the shovel. He had helped expose the original Adeline's schemes, then watched her downfall with the vague boredom of a man attending a mediocre play. Adeline knew his role, so when Ezra found her alone in a rehearsal room at 16, she immediately disliked how handsome he was. That was inconvenient. He stood in the doorway in a black coat, watching her replay footage of herself on a tablet. On screen, Adeline smiled, then frowned, then repeated the same line 3 different ways. Sweet, wounded, devastating. Ezra tilted his head.
Most people your age use mirrors.
Most people my age have terrible emotional continuity.
He entered without asking permission. Rude. Elegant, but rude.
What are you rehearsing?
Adeline paused the video and looked at him. This was Ezra Juniper. Cool-eyed, sharp-jawed, dangerous enough that half the room always wanted his approval and the other half pretended they did not. Adeline considered lying, then decided the truth was funnier.
My downfall.
For the first time, Ezra's expression shifted. Barely, but it shifted. Adeline almost smiled. A good audience was priceless.
Your downfall.
He repeated.
Eventually, someone will try to ruin me in public. People are sloppy when emotions are high. So I rehearse options.
She tapped the screen.
This response says I am hurt, but still dignified.
Another tap.
This one suggests I know more than I'm saying.
Another.
This one makes older women want to protect me, and men with guilt issues reconsider their tone.
Ezra stared at her. Then he laughed. Not loudly, not warmly, just enough to reveal interest.
You are either very vain or very dangerous.
I prefer versatile.
He stepped closer and glanced at the footage.
Why record everything?
Adeline gave him her most innocent smile.
For improvement.
And security?
And security.
And blackmail?
That is such an ugly word.
What word would you use?
Documentation.
Ezra looked at her like he had just discovered a rare species of poisonous flower and was deciding whether to preserve it or propose to it.
You are not what people say you are.
Adeline closed the tablet.
That depends on who is speaking.
From that day onward, Ezra Juniper became a problem. Not an enemy, not quite an ally, just a problem. He appeared at events where she performed, invested in productions connected to her, asked questions that were too precise, noticed things others missed, like how Adeline always chose seats with reflective surfaces nearby, how she never drank from a glass she had not watched being poured, how she smiled most sweetly when someone underestimated her. One evening after a premiere, he leaned beside her while cameras flashed.
You know, Miss Walker, if you ever need help authenticating footage, I know people.
Adeline kept smiling for the photographers.
How generous.
I am not generous.
No, but you are curious.
His eyes flicked to her.
And you?
Adeline turned slightly, catching the light.
Always ready for my close-up.
Ezra smiled. That was the moment Adeline realized something deeply inconvenient. He was enjoying this, and worse, so was she. Aria Walker returned on a rainy afternoon. Because of course she did. Some scenes came pre-lit by destiny. She arrived in a pale green dress, her blonde hair pinned with ribbon, her eyes bright with unshed tears. Sarah cried the moment she saw her. Arthur looked like a man who had discovered a wound under his own ribs. The servants gathered in corners, while the press waited outside the gates, and Adeline stood in the entrance hall wearing soft black. Because if the story insisted on symbolism, she might as well dress for the genre. Aria looked smaller than expected, pretty, fragile. Exactly like the novel described. She stared at Adeline with wide eyes. The air went tight. Everyone waited. In the original story, this was where Adeline froze, where jealousy flashed across her face, where the audience saw the first crack. This time, Adeline stepped forward, gently, warmly. She took Aria's hands.
I'm so glad you're home. You must have been through so much.
Aria blinked, a tiny delay. Too small for the family to notice, but Adeline noticed. Then Aria lowered her lashes.
You're not angry?
Angry?
Adeline gave a soft, confused laugh.
At you? None of this was your fault.
Sarah sobbed harder. Arthur's shoulders eased. The servants exchanged touched looks. Adeline released Aria's hands before the grip could become a contest. Internally, she was making notes.
Entrance? Good. Tears? Visually effective. Hands? Ugh, she started trembling too early. Reaction to kindness? Delayed. Interesting.
Aria smiled back. It was a lovely smile, sweet enough to rot teeth.
I hope we can be sisters.
Aria whispered. Adeline smiled brighter.
I hope so too.
And somewhere in the back of her mind, the theater kid pulled a cord. The curtain rose. At first, Aria was careful. She did not accuse, she implied. A softer weapon. At breakfast, she would look at Adeline's chair and say,
I'm sorry. I forgot that was your seat. I still don't know where I belong.
At fittings, she would touch a dress and murmur,
It must be nice to know what suits you. I always had to wear whatever was given to me.
When Sarah gifted them matching bracelets, Aria smiled beautifully and said,
It's kind of mother to give me something too.
Two. Such a small word. Such a sharp little knife. Adeline never reacted. She smiled. She reassured. She included Aria in conversations. She praised her publicly. She offered to help her adjust. This made Aria progressively worse at pretending not to hate her, which Adeline found fascinating.
Her control is weaker than expected.
Adeline said one night. She was sitting in her private practice room, reviewing footage on 3 screens. Ezra sat in an armchair nearby, because apparently he had decided boundaries were a decorative concept. He had brought coffee, which made his trespassing harder to criticize.
Maybe your kindness bothers her.
My kindness is exceptional.
Your kindness is strategic.
Still counts.
On the screen, Aria stood in the hallway speaking to a maid. No sound, but the body language was clear. Aria's shoulders curled inward. The maid leaned closer. Aria touched her eye. The maid looked outraged. Adeline paused the footage.
There, that little move.
Ezra leaned forward.
Is she crying?
No, she is suggesting she might cry. Different tactic. Less evidence, same result.
Ezra watched her instead of the screen.
You sound impressed.
I appreciate commitment to a bit.
She is trying to destroy you.
Badly.
Does that make it better?
Adeline sighed.
No, but it makes it more annoying.
The first real trap came 2 weeks later. A necklace disappeared from Sarah's dressing room. A sentimental necklace, naturally. By dinner, Aria was pale and trembling.
I don't want to accuse anyone.
She whispered, which was always what people said immediately before accusing someone. Sarah frowned.
Aria, darling, what happened?
Aria looked at Adeline, then looked away. A servant gasped. Arthur's eyes narrowed. Adeline set down her spoon. Not too fast, not too slowly. The room held its breath. Adeline smiled.
Is something wrong?
Aria's lip trembled.
I saw someone near Mother's room, but I must have misunderstood.
Who? Arthur asked. Aria shook her head.
I don't want to cause trouble.
Adeline almost admired it. Almost. That line was vintage green tea. A little basic, yes, but classic. Sarah touched Aria's shoulder.
Tell us, sweetie.
Adeline.
Aria whispered. Silence fell. Adeline blinked once, then turned to Sarah.
Mother, would you like the necklace back now or after dessert?
Sarah froze. Aria's expression stuttered. Arthur said, Adeline. Adeline smiled apologetically.
I noticed the clasp was loose yesterday, so I sent it to be repaired this morning. I told Marta before breakfast.
Marta, the head maid, nodded quickly. Yes, madam. Miss Adeline was concerned it would break. Sarah exhaled. Arthur looked away, ashamed, but not enough. Aria's fingers tightened around her napkin. Adeline resumed eating. Ezra, who had been invited to dinner because Sarah was aggressively matchmaking without admitting it, watched with visible amusement. Later, he found Adeline on the balcony.
You had footage, didn't you?
Of Aria entering the dressing room? Yes.
Yet you did not show it.
One incident makes me look defensive. A pattern makes her look guilty.
Ezra's smile sharpened.
You are a patient woman.
I work dinner theater during Valentine's Day buffet service. This is nothing.
I don't know what that means.
You're blessed.
Aria escalated because, of course, she did. Manipulators hated nothing more than a target who refused to bleed on schedule. She tore one of her own dresses and hinted Adeline had done it. Adeline produced a designer's note proving the fabric had been flawed. Aria claimed a servant had insulted her while praising Adeline. Adeline transferred the servant to another wing, then quietly saved the audio. Aria suggested she felt unsafe around Adeline. Adeline offered to move her own rooms farther away. The family praised Adeline's maturity. Aria smiled until her face nearly cracked. Then she changed tactics. Instead of accusing Adeline directly, she made Adeline seem cold, too composed, too polished, too perfect, and that worked. Because Aria understood something painful. People trusted visible pain more than controlled pain. Sarah began asking Adeline if she was truly all right. Arthur began watching her like she was a beautiful vase near the edge of a table. The servants grew careful. The house grew quiet when Adeline entered. It hurt. Adeline hated that it hurt. She had known the plot. She had expected guilt. She had planned for betrayal. But knowledge did not make pain polite. One night, Adeline sat alone in her practice room and opened an old folder. Childhood recordings. Her 7th birthday. Sarah kneeling to fix her ribbon. Arthur lifting her onto his shoulders. The three of them laughing when Adeline smeared cake frosting on her cheek for dramatic texture. She had watched these clips before to study movement. Now she watched them because she was lonely. The door opened. Ezra entered. Adeline did not look up.
You need a hobby that isn't trespassing.
I knocked.
I ignored you.
You looked sad.
That is not an invitation.
No,
Ezra said, walking in anyway.
it is a warning sign.
Adeline paused the video. On screen, little Adeline laughed in Sarah's arms. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Ezra said,
You loved them.
Adeline's throat tightened.
They loved me.
Past tense?
She smiled without humor.
That depends on how much proof they require before remembering.
Ezra stood beside her, not too close. For once he understood blocking.
You already know what they are capable of believing. The question is whether you still want to convince them.
Adeline stared at the frozen screen. 7-year-old her looked so happy, so safe, so unaware she had been holding a role someone else could reclaim. Finally, Adeline closed the file.
No, I want the truth clean enough that even cowards can't look away.
Ezra's gaze softened. Dangerous, unhelpful, warm,
Then we make backups.
he said. Adeline blinked.
We?
He straightened.
I know people.
You always say that like a threat.
It usually is.
Adeline looked at him. Then, despite herself, she smiled.
Fine. But if you organize my evidence folders badly, I will never forgive you.
Ezra's mouth curved.
I wouldn't dare.
Aria chose the Founders Gala, a perfect stage. The Walker family hosted it every year to raise money for arts education and youth theater. The irony was so thick, Adeline nearly needed a spoon. There would be donors, press, industry executives, family friends, Ezra Juniper, and, most importantly, Sarah and Arthur Walker, standing beneath the portraits of every respectable ancestor who had probably done something illegal but wore excellent hats. The gala's centerpiece was an antique jeweled mask donated for auction, a theatrical piece from an old royal opera, priceless, fragile, symbolic enough to make any director purr. Adeline saw the trap coming 3 days early. Not because she was psychic, because Aria asked 3 separate questions about security placement while pretending to admire floral arrangements. Amateur. Adeline checked the ballroom cameras, the hallway cameras, the tiny camera near the auction display that she had installed years ago to study event lighting. She found Aria at 11:43 p.m., the night before the gala. On screen, Aria entered the ballroom in a robe. No tears, no trembling, no softness, just cold focus. She unlocked the side display case with a copied key, removed the jeweled mask, and snapped one delicate golden chain. Then she placed a black hair ribbon under the velvet stand. Adeline's ribbon. Aria smiled, practiced a distressed expression in the reflection of the glass, then whispered,
I'm sorry, sister.
Adeline paused the video. Ezra, sitting beside her, went very still. Adeline stared at the screen.
Well, that was tacky.
Ezra looked at her.
She planted evidence.
She also chose my third best ribbon. Offensive.
Adeline,
I'm coping.
you should expose her before the gala.
No.
Ezra's eyes narrowed.
She is planning to destroy you publicly,
Yes.
and you want to let her try.
I want her to choose the audience herself.
That is risky.
Adeline turned to him.
Ezra, I have spent 10 years being the girl this story wanted to ruin. If I expose her quietly, my parents will hide it quietly. They will call it confusion, pain, adjustment, trauma.
She looked back at the screen.
But if she performs in front of everyone, then everyone gets to see the show.
Ezra was silent. Then he said,
You are terrifying.
Adeline smiled.
Let's make this a night to remember.
The Founders' Gala glittered. Chandeliers blazed. Music curled through the ballroom as reporters gathered near the entrance. Donors drank champagne and pretended they cared about children's theater more than being photographed caring about children's theater. Adeline wore black. Not morning black, no. Opening night black. Her gown was elegant, sharp, and theatrical enough to make 3 actresses, 1 director, and a fashion columnist reconsider their careers. Aria wore pale green, soft, sweet, victim-coded from neckline to hem. Sarah looked tired but hopeful. Arthur looked proud of both daughters, which was almost worse. Ezra arrived late, on purpose. He crossed the ballroom like a man entering Act 3 with legal counsel hidden in his cufflinks. He stopped beside Adeline.
Cameras.
Rolling.
Backups.
Triple.
Hands.
Adeline flexed her fingers.
Steady.
Heart.
She looked at Aria across the room. Aria smiled at a group of guests, delicate and luminous. Adeline said,
Manageable.
Ezra's voice lowered.
And afterward?
Adeline glanced at him.
Afterward?
When the truth is clean enough. What will you do?
For once, Adeline did not have a rehearsed answer. Then a sharp cry cut through the ballroom, right on cue. Aria stood near the auction display, both hands pressed to her mouth. The jeweled mask lay broken in the case. Gasps spread. Sarah rushed forward. Arthur followed. Guests turned. The music faltered. Adeline watched from across the room. Aria trembled.
Oh no. No, no, no.
A servant lifted the black ribbon from inside the case. A ribbon everyone had seen in Adeline's hair that morning. The room began doing what rooms always did, choosing a story. Sarah turned.
Adeline?
There it was, not accusation yet, but the doorway to it. Arthur's expression hardened. Explain. Aria shook her head frantically.
No, Father. Please don't blame her. Maybe there's another explanation.
A truly committed actress might have applauded. Adeline simply stepped forward. The ballroom parted. Every eye landed on her. Every whisper sharpened. Aria's tears spilled over.
I didn't want this. I didn't want to say anything. But Adeline was so angry after the rehearsal dinner. She said I was taking everything from her.
Sarah inhaled sharply. Arthur's jaw tightened. Ezra moved like he intended to step in. Adeline lifted one finger, and he stopped. Good man. Adeline faced Aria, then the room, then Sarah and Arthur. She let silence bloom. 1 second, 2, 3. Theatrical timing was not about rushing. It was about making the audience lean in. Then Adeline reached into her clutch and took out her phone.
I was hoping we could resolve this privately. Unfortunately, Aria chose an audience.
Aria went still. The phone screen lit. Adeline held it up and pressed play. The ballroom watched Aria Walker enter the room the night before, not crying, not afraid, not gentle. She unlocked the display case, damaged the mask, planted the ribbon, a near-identical match to the one Adeline had worn in the morning, practiced her tears in the glass, then smiled. Someone dropped a champagne flute. The sound cracked through the silence. Sarah staggered back. Arthur's face drained. Aria whispered,
That's not. No, I didn't.
Adeline swiped. Another clip. Aria hiding the necklace from Sarah's dressing room. Another. Aria tearing her own dress. Another. Aria telling a maid, with dry eyes and a bored expression, that Adeline was too loved to stay loved. Another. Aria standing in front of a mirror practicing a trembling lip. Adeline paused that one.
Careful. You're repeating the same expression from the East hallway footage.
The room inhaled as one creature. Aria's face changed. The softness peeled back.
You recorded me?
Adeline tilted her head.
I record myself. You kept committing crimes in my rehearsal spaces.
A whisper moved through the guests. Ezra coughed into his hand. It sounded suspiciously like a laugh. Aria's eyes flashed.
You stole my life.
The room went colder. There she was. Not the wounded daughter, not the fragile sister. Just the girl underneath.
You had everything.
Aria said, voice rising.
My room, my parents, my name, my place. Everyone looked at you like you belonged.
Adeline lowered the phone. For the first time that night, her smile faded.
You deserved to come home. You did not deserve to destroy me, to feel like you belonged.
Aria flinched. Sarah began crying. Not pretty tears, real ones, messy and late. Arthur stepped toward Adeline. Adeline, She looked at him. He stopped. That was wise. Adeline's voice stayed calm.
Do you know why I never showed you the earlier footage?
Neither parent answered, so she did.
Because I knew you would need proof before you believed me.
Sarah covered her mouth. Arthur looked like she had slapped him. Adeline almost wished she had. It might have been cleaner. Ezra stepped forward then. Not in front of Adeline, beside her. Correct blocking.
For clarity,
He said, voice smooth and lethal.
the footage has already been backed up, time-stamped, and authenticated by Juniper Media's legal team. Several files have also been transferred to counsel in case of tampering.
Aria stared at him.
You helped her?
Ezra looked faintly offended.
She had already done most of the work. I organized the folders.
Adeline glanced at him.
Barely.
I used labels.
You used boring labels.
This hardly seems like the moment.
It matters.
A few guests looked unsure whether they were allowed to laugh. That was fine. Tension needed ventilation. Arthur turned to Aria. Why? Aria's face crumpled again, but this time the performance had lost its lighting.
Because she was still your daughter, even after I came back.
Sarah sobbed. Adeline looked at Aria and felt something unexpected. Not forgiveness, not pity exactly. Recognition. Aria had been hurt, lost, angry. But pain was not permission. Adeline had learned that in psychology class and in theater, especially in theater. Some people thought the emotion justified bad behavior because emotion made a scene more believable. They were wrong. Motivation explained the character. It did not excuse the action. The gala ended early. Scandals had a way of ruining dessert. Aria was taken upstairs by Sarah and 2 family staff members, not locked away, not dragged, but watched. Arthur remained in the ballroom, surrounded by broken trust and worse lighting. The guests left in murmurs. Reporters had questions. Ezra's people handled them with terrifying efficiency. By midnight, the Walker ballroom was almost empty. Adeline stood beside the ruined auction display. The jeweled mask glittered under the lights, broken but not destroyed. Arthur approached slowly. Adeline. She did not turn. I am sorry. She looked at the mask.
For which part?
He flinched. Good. Specificity mattered. For doubting you, he said. For making you feel you had to protect yourself alone. For allowing guilt to make me unfair. Adeline breathed in and out. The old Adeline might have cried. The original Adeline might have shouted. Addie from dinner theater might have delivered a monologue so devastating the chandeliers dimmed out of respect. This Adeline was tired.
Thank you for saying that.
Arthur looked relieved too soon, so she continued.
I'm moving into the West residence.
His face tightened. That isn't necessary.
It is.
Adeline, this is your home. She finally turned to him.
No, it was my role.
Arthur went silent. Adeline softened, but only a little.
I am not leaving the family tonight. I am not disowning anyone. But I will not live in a house where my safety depends on whether my pain is convenient to believe.
Sarah appeared in the doorway behind him, pale and shaken. She had heard. Good. Adeline was done repeating herself for people who missed cues. Sarah whispered.
Can we earn it back?
Adeline looked at her mother. Her almost mother, her complicated, guilty, and very human mother.
Yes, but not by asking me to pretend it never happened.
Sarah nodded, crying again. Real tears had worse symmetry. Adeline found them harder to hate. Aria was not thrown into the street. This was not that kind of story. Adeline did not need a barefoot blonde sobbing in the rain to feel victorious. That was cheap theater. Aria was removed from public events. Her access to family assets was restricted. She was assigned therapy, education, and supervision. Arthur announced that both daughters would be protected, but neither would be permitted to harm the other. Sarah, finally awake from the fog of guilt, stayed with Aria through the first ugly weeks. Not to excuse her, to make sure she could not keep hiding behind pain. The press called it a family crisis. The internet called it the Walker Gala incident. One particularly dramatic gossip blog called Adeline the black-dressed blade of truth. Adeline objected to the phrase. Ezra, however, had it printed on a mug. She hated that she used it. 3 months later, Adeline returned to set. The project was a psychological thriller about a daughter trying to survive a family that kept choosing prettier lies. The casting was perhaps too on the nose, but the script was excellent. During the first table read, the director asked if she needed time. Adeline looked at the page, then at the cameras, then smiled.
No, I know this role.
The performance went viral before the series even aired. A behind-the-scenes clip showed Adeline delivering one quiet line with such controlled heartbreak that half the crew stopped breathing. Brands called, directors called, critics called her unforgettable. Adeline called it trauma with market value, which made her agent beg her to stop speaking near microphones. Ezra did not stop appearing. He visited set with coffee, sent contracts with notes in the margins, invested in her production company when she decided she wanted control behind the camera too. One evening, Adeline found him in her office, reviewing a proposal. Again, trespassing had apparently become his love language.
You need a bell.
You gave me a key.
For emergencies.
I was bored.
Not an emergency.
Debatable.
She took the folder from his hands.
What is this?
A partnership offer.
She scanned it.
This gives me creative control.
Yes.
And funding.
Yes.
And distribution priority.
Yes.
She looked up.
Ezra Juniper. Are you trying to recruit me or court me?
He did not blink.
Both. I dislike wasting time.
Adeline stared at him.
That was alarmingly efficient.
You appreciate efficiency.
She did, annoyingly.
You realize I document everything.
I assumed.
I have cameras.
I behave better on camera.
That sounds like something a villain says.
His mouth curved.
Former villain-adjacent investor.
Not a real job title.
It could be, if you produce the drama.
Adeline laughed before she could stop herself. Ezra looked pleased. Too pleased. Dangerous man. Excellent timing. Good cheekbones. A complete nuisance. Adeline signed the partnership contract, not the courting one. There was no courting contract. Yet, Ezra looked faintly disappointed by that. Adeline pretended not to notice. A year after the gala, Adeline stood on a red carpet beneath flashing cameras. Not hidden ones this time. Honest ones. Hungry ones. Cameras that wanted her face, her dress, her story. Even her pain, packaged neatly for public consumption. A reporter leaned forward. "Miss Walker, after everything that happened, how did you keep going?" Adeline smiled. For years she had practiced smiles. Sweet smiles, wounded smiles, dangerous smiles. This one was different. It belonged entirely to her.
Simple. I knew I was in a drama.
The reporter blinked. Adeline turned slightly, catching the light perfectly.
So, I learned where to stand.
Across the carpet, Ezra Juniper watched her with the expression of a man who had invested in many profitable things and had finally found one that could argue back. Adeline walked forward. The cameras flashed. The crowd called her name. For once, She was not the fake heiress, not the stolen daughter, not the girl waiting to be replaced. The curtain had risen. The audience was watching. And Adeline Walker was finally the lead.
Like the story? Join the Chaotic Novel Club. We meet up every week. See you in the next book. Nibs out.